By the way, it's at GeorgeForGovernor.com. Thank you.
Next question to Senator.
Great question. You get into the specifics right away. Value for money budgeting, that I talked about before. An open process where all people are participating, not to say what we've spent before and how we're going to tweak that, but what do our citizens, our customers want us to spend dollars on? What services do you want delivered to you by your government? And then do it in terms of results, not activity. To hold us accountable to say, we will get people jobs, we will get our kids through school, and measure us against the other 50 states, other countries, and hold us accountable for those actions. Other things, I talked about the MVP. It's a stupid tax. It's unfair. It needs to go away. The third thing, the regulatory front, which the governor can jump on immediately. There's a presumption now that people in the state are bad and they need to be controlled. That's wrong. I'd like to talk about an illustration from Maine. In Maine, their OSHA organization went out to the 200 worst complying employers and said, we're going to give you a break for an entire year. No fines if you put in a program that we're going to work with you on to self-police yourself and put in the right programs. They said, no fines, no audits. After that year, the amount of issues in the workplace in terms of claims went down by almost 2/3. Their costs went down by 47%, and the state saved money because they knew how to work with honest, good citizens the right way, not the wrong way of today. Thank you.
Back to Mike Cox. Same question.
Thank you, Brooks, and thank you, John. John, job number one is going to be $2 billion tax cut. Quite simply, that is what I'm talking about. If we're going to move forward, we need a tax cut here so we can compete with the 49 other states. Job number two, and by the way, as I said before, you can look at my plan, Mike Cox 2010, because I'm willing to share in detail my ideas today and not have you wait until January of 2011. Number two, I would go after government spending. As the governor, you have the power through executive order and executive directive to tell your cabinet ministers not to spend more than what the governor orders. And then I would go to fight with the legislature if need be. As I said before, in my world, we're given a figure, we live with it. I've done more with less people than was the case 10 years ago. And every year I've returned money back to the state. Job number 3 is regulatory reform. You can see all my ideas in Mike Cox 2010. We should do things like default permits, where if a certain amount of time passes by, then it's presumed that you ought to get a permit, and the state ought to show why you shouldn't. I would fight for regulatory reform like I fought Jennifer Granholm when she tried to stop the construction of a $2 billion project in Bay City by adding apartments into the law that weren't there. I've done it already, and I will do it again as governor. Thank you. Brooks, for those of you who aren't familiar with the web, it's www.
John, it's very simple. I mean, there's one thing that everybody in this state is worried about. They're concerned about. It is about jobs and economic growth. That is the reference point. We need to grow the economy. If we grow the economy, we will grow revenues. You know, we're going to inherit a state that's going to go through devastating cuts over the next 18 months. There may still be more money there, but the thing is, the leverage point is economic growth. You move the NEDC and the responsibility for economic growth directly into the governor's office. You put in place a cabinet that wakes up every morning saying, how do we say yes to the entrepreneur in Michigan who wants to invest and who wants to create a job today?
Yeah.
Here again at trout farms. The answer was put a shovel in the ground and we'll shut you down. Mancino's Pizza. You need a liquor license to put 30 to 40 people back to work? We'll get that done for you in about 6 months. Kennecott Mines, you want to open up a mine and employ 500 people? Well, that'll take about 2 or 3 years. Consumers, you want to build a power plant? We have the oldest fleet in the country. $4 $400 to $500 million of private sector investment, 1,600 jobs for 6 years. What does this governor say? Nah, not right now. Let's create some more hurdles. Economic development, the second job is get rid of the MBT, then transform and get a return on state investment.
All right, Chair Bouchard.
Chair for Governor, that kind of works. First thing we're going to have to do, first executive order, freeze on the central thing. We're bleeding, and we're bleeding on the floor. That's got to stop. Again, I've been through this in 1991. We were in the same similar circumstances. We made the tough changes. We're going to have to do it again. Second, the budget process is clearly broken. If you go to my webpage, there's a budget block shutdown. It's called Countdown to Shutdown. We're 4 or 5 days away from being without a budget again for the second time in 3 years. We're going to change that system so that we adopt our budget by May 15th. After May 15th, every day after May 15th, that's not adopted. The governor and every legislator loses a day's pay. In the real world, they're going to do a job and going to pay, and we're going to make Lansing the real world again. Second, we're going to adopt a 2-year rolling budget with a 3-year lookout. We in Oakland County adopted a 3-year budget. We're the first county in America to adopt a 3-year rolling budget. Meaning, look out 3 years, see clouds, and change today, our behavior today, to accommodate it. I've been a big part of Brooks' team there to get that done, and almost a third of the budget. That template will come to Lansing if I'm elected governor. Last but not least, we have to make sure that those projections that we base our revenue on are independently verified so that they're realistic. We've never seen them match up with our projections in Oakland County. And we will bring them in line, make them pass the budget, because cities, townships, villages, and schools pass it way sooner, and then just wonder what's going to be done to them, not for them. That will end.
We'll now start round 5, and can I have the attention of the timer? We're going to do a minute and 15 seconds. If I pick up some time, we will be able to finish your round, because we a lot of time. A minute and 15. I'll give you a 30 flash to get up to that. So, new rules, minute and 15 seconds to start round 5. Kathy, what's good? You start your first question with Rick Snyder.
Thank you. I'm going to get program specific in regards to economic development, with the purpose, though, to get an idea of what all of you feel about corporate welfare. The Michigan Film Office reported in March that the state would subsidize movie makers as much as $48 million in 2008 based on the Michigan Film Incentives refundable tax credit. Given that about $65 million were actually spent in the state of Michigan during that time, and some projections which say the subsidies could reach more than $100 million for movies shot in Michigan in 2009, and a Senate Fiscal Agency analyst testified before the Senate Finance Committee that these types of programs, quote, never pay for themselves. Please explain why you would or would not support legislation to end the film subsidies.
Rick Snyder.
Becky, you hit an important topic in terms of these subsidies. They've gotten out of control, and they're wrong. The film credit should have never happened to begin with, and I believe it should be phased out and transitioned and get rid of them in some fashion. Because, again, people are relying on it now. I don't believe in cutting people off at the knees if you transition it down in some fashion. The whole incentive situation is out of control. If you go look at the numbers, which people don't like to talk about, in 2002, there were $610 million or so of tax expenditures in the state. That number in 2008 had grown to over $900 million. Think of that, $300 million in just the last 2 years. What would that do in terms of closing a budget gap? That's wrong. And add the film credit on top, you could be close to $1 billion this year. That's not the way to do economic incentives or economic growth. You do it by creating a more level, competitive playing field compared to the other states by tax reform, regulatory reform across the board. Help the entrepreneur, help the small business person, not people with the best lobbies. Thank you.
Mackinac, 15 seconds to answer the same question.
Thank you, Kevin. I believe the BAS tax credit is where we lower the cost of doing business for every single business and entrepreneur here in Michigan. The problem with the film credit is